The year was 2157, and humanity had just taken its first steps into the vast, star-filled ocean of the Milky Way. Earth's first faster-than-light ship, the ESS Pathfinder, emerged from the swirling blues and purples of hyperspace. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge, her heart racing, as she saw an alien world for the first time. "My God," she whispered, "we're really here." The planet Proxima b hung in space before them, its red-tinged atmosphere glowing in the light of its parent star. But it wasn't the planet that made Sarah's jaw drop. It was the massive space station orbiting it, clearly not of human design. "Ma'am," her communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission." The main screen flickered to life, revealing a creature that looked like a cross between an octopus and a tree. Its bark-like skin rippled as it spoke, tentacles waving gently. "Greetings, humans of Earth," the alien said in perfect English. "Welcome to the galactic community. We are the Arborans, and we have been expecting you." And just like that, humanity learned it wasn't alone in the universe. In the months that followed, Earth was introduced to a dizzying array of alien species: the Arborans, the crystalline silicoids, the gaseous nebulites, and dozens more, each with their own unique biology, culture, and technology. At first, humans were celebrated as the newest members of the galactic family. Diplomats from Earth attended grand ceremonies on far-off worlds. Scientists eagerly exchanged knowledge with their alien counterparts. It seemed like the beginning of a golden age for humanity. But it didn't take long for the cracks to show. 6 months after first contact, General Michael Okonkwo stood before the United Nations, his face grim. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "I'm afraid I have disturbing news. Our allies in the galactic community have been less than forthcoming about certain realities." He explained that the galaxy was not the peaceful utopia they had been led to believe. There were wars, territorial disputes, ancient rivalries that spanned millennia. And humanity, it seemed, was seen as easy prey. "The silicoids have demanded we see our mining rights on Mars," Okonkwo continued. "The nebulites are pressuring us to abandon our colonies in the Kuiper Belt. And the Arborans," he paused, his voice tight with anger, "they've suggested we would be better off as a protectorate under their rule." The UN chamber erupted in shouts and arguments. How could they stand up to species so much more advanced? What chance did humanity have against civilizations that had been crossing the stars for thousands of years? It was in this atmosphere of fear and uncertainty that the first taunts began. On a diplomatic mission to the silicoid homeworld, Ambassador Elena Rodriguez found herself cornered by a group of crystal-like beings at a state dinner. "Tell us, human," one of them chimed, its facets glittering with amusement, "how does your species plan to defend itself if real trouble comes? Will you hide behind your planet's magnetic field like frightened children?" Elena tried to argue, to point out humanity's resilience and determination. But her words fell on deaf ears, or whatever passed for ears among the silicoids. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. Human diplomats were mocked. Earth's military capabilities were dismissed as primitive. Even their art and culture were belittled as simplistic and crude. The final straw came during a galactic council meeting. Earth had petitioned to join the Mutual Defense Pact, a coalition of species dedicated to protecting each other from external threats. Captain Chen, now an admiral, made an impassioned speech about the value humanity could bring to the alliance. The Arboran representative's laughter cut her off mid-sentence. "Oh, you adorable little mammals," it said, tentacles quivering with mirth. "What could you possibly offer? Your ships are toys compared to ours. Your weapons wouldn't scratch our hulls. Face it, humans, you're simply not ready for the big leagues." As the chamber filled with alien laughter, Sarah felt a fire ignite in her chest. She looked around at her fellow humans, diplomats, scientists, soldiers, and saw the same determination in their eyes. They had been insulted, belittled, treated like children among giants, but humanity had faced long odds before. They had crawled out of caves to reach the stars. They had survived plagues, wars, and their own destructive nature, and they would prove themselves here, in this vast galactic arena. As Sarah left the council chamber, she made a vow. Humanity would show these arrogant aliens exactly what they were capable of. They would earn their place among the stars, no matter the cost. Little did she know, the greatest challenge in human history was just around the corner, and it would take every ounce of courage, ingenuity, and determination her species possessed to face it. The stage was set. Humanity had been called cowards. It was time for them to step up. 5 years had passed since humanity's first contact with the galactic community. Earth had changed a lot in that time. Alien technology had improved human lives in many ways. New medicines cured old diseases, clean energy-powered cities. But not everything was better. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the window of her office on the lunar base, looking out at the blue marble of Earth. Her comlink beeped, breaking the silence. "Admiral," a voice said, "we're picking up strange signals from the edge of the solar system." Sarah frowned. "What kind of signals?" "We're not sure, ma'am, but they're like nothing we've seen before." Little did Sarah know, this was the beginning of a crisis that would shake the entire galaxy. Across the Milky Way, on the planet Arborea, diplomat Elena Rodriguez was having a bad day. She sat in a meeting with the Arborean High Council, trying to negotiate better trade terms for Earth. But the tree-like aliens weren't listening. "Humans," one Arborean said, waving a tentacle dismissively, "always wanting more. Be grateful for what we give you." Elena was about to argue when an aide burst into the room. The Arborean's bark-like skin turned pale. "Counselors," the aide said, "we've lost contact with the Zeta Reticuli system." The room erupted in chaos. Elena didn't understand why losing contact with one star system was such a big deal, but she soon would. Back on Earth, General Michael Okonkwo was in an emergency meeting with world leaders. The mood was tense. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "I have grave news. An unknown force is attacking systems on the edge of known space. The Galactic Council has called an emergency session." The room buzzed with worried whispers. "What do we know about this force?" the president of the African Union asked. Michael's face was grim. "Not much. But the aliens are calling them the Devourers." In the following days, more news trickled in. The Devourers were unlike any threat the galaxy had faced before. They didn't communicate. They didn't negotiate. They simply appeared, destroyed everything in their path, and moved on. Sarah Chen found herself on a ship headed to the Galactic Council's headquarters. As Earth's top military leader, she would represent humanity at the emergency meeting. The council chamber was packed with representatives from hundreds of species. Fear hung in the air like a thick fog. An Arborean stood to speak. "The Devourers have already destroyed 12 systems," it said. "Our best fleets have failed to stop them. We need a new strategy." Ideas were thrown around. Some wanted to try to communicate with the Devourers. Others suggested building a massive defensive line. A few even talked about surrendering. Sarah listened, growing more frustrated by the minute. When she tried to speak, to offer Earth's help, she was ignored. What could humans possibly do? A silicoid chimed. "Your ships are toys compared to the Devourers." The meeting went on for hours. In the end, the council decided to focus on evacuating systems in the Devourers' path. They would try to save as many lives as possible, while working on a way to stop the threat. As the meeting ended, Sarah approached the Arborean representative. "Earth wants to help," she said. "We may not have the most advanced technology, but we have courage and determination." The Arborean looked at her with what might have been pity. "Admirable, human. But this is beyond you. Focus on protecting your own world. The grown-ups will handle this." Sarah felt her blood boil. But before she could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. "Emergency," a voice called out. "The Devourers have breached the Orion Arm." Repeat, "The Devourers have entered the Orion Arm." The Orion Arm, where Earth was located. As panic spread through the council chamber, Sarah realized two things. First, the threat was now at humanity's doorstep. And second, the so-called advanced species of the galaxy had no idea how to stop it. It was time for humanity to step up, whether the galaxy liked it or not. The galaxy was in chaos. The Devourers, unstoppable and merciless, tore through system after system. Advanced alien civilizations, once proud and mighty, fell one by one. Admiral Sarah Chen watched from the bridge of Earth's flagship, the ESS Defiant, as another battle raged. The Silicoids, with their crystal ships that could withstand the heat of stars, were fighting the Devourers. "They're losing," Sarah said quietly. Her second-in-command, Captain Raj Patel, nodded grimly, just like the others. The Silicoid ships, beautiful and deadly, shattered like glass against the Devourers' strange, dark energy weapons. In less than an hour, it was over. Another advanced race had fallen. Back on Earth, General Michael Okonkwo faced a room full of scared world leaders. The holograms of presidents, prime ministers, and other officials flickered as they shouted over each other. "We should surrender," one cried. "No, we should run." Another argued, "There are unexplored galaxies. We could escape." Michael raised his hand for silence. "We can't run," he said firmly. "And we won't surrender. Humanity has faced extinction before. We've always found a way to survive. We'll do it again." But even as he spoke, Michael wasn't sure he believed his own words. On the alien world of Arborea, diplomat Elena Rodriguez was packing her bags. The Arborans, once so proud and dismissive of humans, were now in a panic. "You must leave," an Arboran official told her, its tentacles waving frantically. "We can no longer guarantee your safety. The Devourers are coming." Elena looked out the window at the beautiful forest cities of Arborea. "What about your people?" she asked. The Arboran's bark-like skin turned a pale, sickly color. We will do what we can, but our fleets are destroyed. Our defenses are failing. We are doomed." As Elena boarded the last ship back to Earth, she couldn't help but feel a mix of sadness and anger. The aliens had mocked humanity, called them primitive and cowardly. Now, faced with a real threat, they were giving up. Days turned into weeks. The Devourers moved closer to Earth. Admiral Chen and the combined human fleet fought, delaying actions, buying time for evacuations and last-ditch defense preparations. During one battle, Sarah's ship was nearly destroyed. As she limped back to Earth for repairs, she received a surprising message. "Admiral," Captain Patel said, "we're being hailed. It's the Galactic Council." The main screen flickered to life, showing a group of alien representatives. They looked tired, defeated. "Humans," the Arboran speaker said, we need your help." Sarah almost laughed. "Our help? I thought we were just primitive cowards." The aliens had the grace to look ashamed. "We were wrong," the Arboran admitted. "Your species has shown great courage in the face of the Devourers. While we retreated, you fought. While we despaired, you planned. What do you want from us?" Sarah asked. "Sanctuary," another alien, a silicoid, chimed in. "Our worlds are lost or soon will be. We ask for refuge on Earth and its colonies." Sarah was stunned. The mighty alien races running to humans for protection. It seemed impossible. But as she looked at her crew, at the determination in their eyes, she realized something. Humans had been fighting against the odds since they first walked upright on the savannas of Africa. They had faced ice ages, predators, diseases, and their own worst impulses, and they had survived. Maybe, just maybe, that was what the galaxy needed now. "I'll speak to Earth's leaders," Sarah said. "But know this, if we give you sanctuary, you fight alongside us. No more running, no more hiding. We face the Devourers together, or not at all." The aliens nodded, a mix of fear and hope on their alien faces. As Sarah ended the transmission, she turned to her crew. "Send a message to all ships and Earth Command," she ordered. Tell them Tell them it's time. Operation Human Shield is a go." The crew cheered, their voices echoing through the ship. They knew the fight ahead would be hard. They knew many of them might not survive. But they also knew that this was humanity's moment. It was time to show the galaxy what humans were really made of. The mood was tense in the underground bunker beneath the ruins of New York City. World leaders from every nation on Earth sat around a massive table, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of holographic displays. General Michael Okonkwo stood at the head of the table, his usually calm demeanor replaced by a look of grim determination. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, "we face the greatest threat in human history. The Devourers have decimated the most advanced civilizations in our galaxy. Now, they're at our doorstep." The room erupted into a cacophony of voices, each leader trying to be heard over the others. "We should surrender," the president of Brazil shouted. "No, we must flee to the stars," argued the Prime Minister of India. "And go where?" retorted the African Union representative. "The Devourers are everywhere." Michael raised his hand, silencing the room. "We have another option," he said quietly. "Operation Human Shield." He nodded to a young woman standing in the shadows. Dr. Amelia Wong, Earth's leading xenobiologist, stepped forward. Her eyes were tired, but there was a fire in them that caught everyone's attention. "We've been studying the Devourers," she said, "and we found something interesting. They're not invincible." The room went silent. Amelia tapped a few buttons on her wrist computer, and a 3D model of a Devourer ship appeared above the table. "Their ships are incredibly advanced," she continued, "but they have a weakness. They rely on a form of dark energy we don't fully understand. But we found a way to disrupt it." She looked around the room, meeting each leader's eyes. "The catch is, we can only do it at very close range, closer than any ship could survive." The implications of her words sank in. The Prime Minister of Japan was the first to speak. "You're talking about a suicide mission." Michael nodded solemnly. "We're calling for volunteers, a special force trained to fly directly into the heart of the Devourer fleet. They'll detonate devices that will disrupt the Devourer's energy fields, leaving them vulnerable to conventional weapons." The room exploded into arguments once again. Some leaders were outraged at the idea of sending their people on suicide missions. Others saw it as their only hope. As the debate raged, a new voice cut through the noise. "I volunteer." All heads turned to see Admiral Sarah Chen standing in the doorway. She walked to the center of the room, her head held high. "I've seen what the Devourers can do," she said. "I've watched advanced alien races fall before them. But I've also seen the courage of human beings. We've faced extinction before, and we've always found a way to survive." She looked around the room, her gaze challenging each leader. "We're not running. We're not hiding. We're going to fight, and we're going to win." Her words hung in the air, and for a moment, no one spoke. Then, slowly, one by one, the leaders began to nod. The President of the United States stood up. "We're with you, Admiral. Earth stands united." Over the next few hours, plans were made. Resources were allocated. A global call for volunteers was drafted. As the meeting ended, Michael pulled Sarah aside. "Are you sure about this?" he asked. "You know the chances of survival are." Sarah cut him off with a smile. "Slim to none." "Yeah, I know. But someone has to do it. And I'd rather go down fighting than hiding in a bunker." Michael nodded, a mix of pride and sadness in his eyes. "I'll see you at the training facility," he said. As Sarah left the bunker, she looked up at the night sky. Somewhere up there, the Devourers were coming. But for the first time since this crisis began, she felt hope. Humanity had made its decision. They would not go quietly into the night. They would rage against the dying of the light, and they would show the galaxy what it truly meant to be human. Operation Human Shield was about to begin. And with it, the greatest battle in human history. The desert sun beat down mercilessly on the training facility, What was once Area 51 had been transformed into the headquarters for Operation Human Shield. Thousands of volunteers from every corner of the Earth had gathered here, ready to risk everything to save humanity. Admiral Sarah Chen stood before the first group of recruits. Men and women of all ages and backgrounds looked back at her, their faces a mix of determination and fear. "You all know why you're here," Sarah began. "The Devourers are coming, and we're humanity's last hope. The training will be hard. Many of you won't make it, but those who do will have the chance to save not just Earth, but the entire galaxy." As Sarah spoke, she couldn't help but think of the irony. Just a few months ago, humans were seen as the weakest species in the galaxy. Now, they were its last line of defense. The training was brutal. Days blurred into weeks as the volunteers were pushed to their physical and mental limits. They learned to pilot the new, experimental ships designed for Operation Human Shield. These ships, called Fireflies, were small, fast, and packed with the disruptor technology that was humanity's only hope against the Devourers. In one of the hangars, Dr. Amelia Wong was working tirelessly on the disruptor devices. She looked up as Sarah walked in. "How's it going?" Sarah asked. Amelia wiped sweat from her brow. "We're making progress. The disruptors are getting more powerful, but..." She hesitated. "But what?" "The effective range is still too short. Whoever flies these ships, they won't be coming back." Sarah nodded grimly. They had always known this would be a one-way mission, but hearing it stated so bluntly made it all too real. As the weeks passed, the training intensified. The volunteers learned to work as a team, to trust each other with their lives. They studied the Devourers' tactics, looking for any weakness they could exploit. One day, during a simulation, a young pilot named Carlos Rodriguez made a breakthrough. He managed to get closer to the simulated Devourer ship than anyone had before, without being detected. "How did you do that?" Sarah asked, reviewing the footage. Carlos grinned. "I noticed a pattern in their energy field. If we time our approach just right, there's a split second where we're invisible to them." It wasn't much, but it was hope. Sarah immediately ordered the tactic to be incorporated into their strategy. As the training progressed, something unexpected began to happen. The alien refugees who had sought sanctuary on Earth started to volunteer for the mission. An Arboran named Zax approached Sarah one day. "We want to help," it said, its bark-like skin rippling with emotion. "We were wrong about humans. You've shown us what true courage is. Let us fight alongside you." Sarah was touched. She knew the aliens' advanced knowledge could be invaluable. "Welcome aboard," she said, shaking one of Zax's tentacles. Finally, after months of preparation, the day arrived. Long-range sensors detected the Devourer fleet entering the solar system. It was time. Sarah stood before the assembled pilots, human and alien alike. The hangar was filled with rows of Firefly ships, each one a beacon of hope. "Today, we make our stand," Sarah said, her voice carrying across the silent crowd. "Not just for Earth, but for every world that has fallen to the Devourers. They thought we were weak. They called us cowards. Today, we prove them wrong." She looked out at the faces before her. So many would not return from this mission. But in their eyes, she saw not fear, but resolve. "Remember your training. Remember why we fight. And remember this, no matter what happens out there, you are the bravest souls I have ever had the honor of serving with." A cheer went up from the crowd. Pilots rushed to their ships, ready to meet their destiny. As Sarah climbed into her own Firefly, she took one last look at the Earth on the view screen. Everything they loved, everything they fought for, was riding on this mission. "This is Admiral Chen to all ships," she said into her comm. "Operation Human Shield is go. Good luck, and Godspeed." With a roar of engines, the Firefly fleet took off, heading out to meet the greatest threat humanity had ever faced. The final battle was about to begin. The vastness of space stretched out before the Firefly fleet. Thousands of small ships, each piloted by a brave volunteer, human and alien alike, flew in formation. At the head of the fleet, Admiral Sarah Chen's voice crackled over the comms. "This is it, people. The Devourers have just entered the asteroid belt. Remember your training. Remember why we're here. For Earth. For the galaxy. For all of us." As if on cue, the first Devourer ships appeared on their long-range scanners. Massive black shapes, like oil slicks against the stars, they moved with an eerie grace. "All units, prepare to engage," Sarah ordered. Her heart was pounding, but her voice remained steady. "Operation Human Shield is go." The Firefly ships split into their designated squadrons. Each had a specific target and mission. Sarah led the main assault group, aiming for the heart of the Devourer fleet. As they drew closer, the true scale of the Devourer armada became clear. Their ships dwarfed the Fireflies, making the human vessels look like insects in comparison. "Stay calm," Sarah reminded her pilots. "Size isn't everything. Remember Carlos' discovery." The fleet approached the enemy ships, timing their advance with the fluctuations in the Devourer's energy fields. For a breathless moment, it seemed to work. They slipped past the first line of defenses undetected. Then all hell broke loose. Beams of dark energy lashed out from the Devourer ships, slicing through space. Fireflies exploded left and right, as pilots desperately tried to evade. "Push through," Sarah yelled, her own ship narrowly dodging a beam. "We need to get closer." In the chaos of the battle, something unexpected happened. The Arboran pilot, Zax, noticed a pattern in the Devourer's attacks. "Admiral," Zax's voice came over the comm. "Their weapons fire in a sequence. If we time it right, we can predict where the next shot will come from." Sarah quickly relayed the information to the fleet. It wasn't much, but it gave them a fighting chance. Slowly, painstakingly, they inched closer to their targets. But the cost was high. With each passing minute, more Fireflies winked out of existence. Sarah watched her tactical display with a growing sense of dread. They were losing too many ships, too quickly. Just when it seemed like all hope was lost, Carlos Rodriguez's voice cut through the din of battle. "Admiral, I'm in position. I'm going for their command ship." Sarah's eyes widened. Carlos had somehow slipped through the Devourer defenses. His Firefly was on a direct course for the largest enemy vessel. "All units, cover Carlos," Sarah ordered. "This might be our only shot." What followed was a display of piloting skill that would be remembered for generations. Carlos weaved his ship through a storm of enemy fire, each movement perfectly timed. The rest of the fleet provided what cover they could, drawing fire away from him. In the final approach, Carlos's voice came over the comm one last time. "For Earth," he said simply. Then his ship slammed into the Devourer command vessel. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a pulse of energy rippled out from the point of impact. The massive Devourer ship shuddered, its dark energy field flickering and dying. "It worked," Sarah breathed. Then, louder, "It worked. All ships, target that vessel. Give it everything you've got." The remaining Fireflies unleashed their weapons, pouring fire into the now vulnerable Devourer ship. Explosions blossomed along its hull. And then, in a spectacular burst of light, it broke apart. A cheer went up across the human fleet. For the first time since the Devourers appeared, they had scored a significant victory. But Sarah knew the battle was far from over. "Don't celebrate yet," she warned. "We've hurt them, but there are still more ships out there. Prepare for their counterattack." As if in response to her words, the remaining Devourer vessels began to move. But something was different. Their formations were less organized, their movements less certain. "They're confused," Zax realized. "They've never lost a ship before. They don't know how to react." Sarah saw their opportunity. "This is our chance," she said. "All ships, press the attack. Show them what happens when you underestimate humanity." As the Firefly fleet surged forward, ready to continue the fight, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. They had done the impossible. They had bloodied the nose of an unbeatable enemy. The battle was far from over, but for the first time, victory seemed possible. Humanity had been called cowards, but today they had proven themselves the bravest species in the galaxy. The battle raged on for what felt like an eternity. The void of space lit up with explosions and energy beams as the Firefly fleet clashed with the Devourer Armada. Admiral Sarah Chen's voice, hoarse from shouting orders, crackled over the comms. "Keep pushing. We've got them on the back foot." The human strategy was working. More Devourer ships fell, their once impenetrable defenses crumbling before the combined might of humanity and their alien allies. But the cost was high. For every Devourer ship destroyed, dozens of Fireflies were lost. On Earth, General Michael Okonkwo watched the battle unfold on massive screens. His fists were clenched so tight his knuckles had turned white. "Come on, Sarah," he muttered. "Finish this." In space, Sarah's ship rocked as a nearby explosion buffeted it. "Status report," she barked. "Admiral." Zax's voice came through. "We've destroyed over half their fleet, but our numbers are down to less than 20%. Sarah gritted her teeth. They were so close, but victory was slipping away. They needed something to tip the scales. Suddenly, a new voice cut through the chaos. "This is Dr. Amelia Wong." "Admiral, do you read me?" "I read you, Doctor. What is it?" "We've been analyzing the data from the battle. There's a pattern to the Devourer's ship movements. If we can disrupt their lead ship, it should throw their entire fleet into disarray." Sarah's mind raced. It was a long shot, but at this point, it was all they had. "Understood. All remaining ships, form up on me. We're going for their leader." The surviving Fireflies rallied around Sarah's ship. Humans, Arborans, Silicoids, species that once distrusted each other now flew as one, united against a common foe. As they approached the massive Devourer lead ship, Sarah felt a calm settle over her. Whatever happened next, humanity had proven itself. They weren't cowards. They were warriors. "All ships, fire disruptors on my mark," Sarah ordered. She watched as the energy readings on the Devourer ship fluctuated, waiting for the perfect moment. Now, a wave of energy pulses shot out from the Firefly fleet. They struck the Devourer ship just as its defenses flickered. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then, like a dying star, the Devourer lead ship exploded in a burst of dark energy. The shockwave rippled out, catching the other Devourer ships off guard. "It worked," Zax shouted. "Their fleet is in chaos." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. All ships pressed the attack. "Let's finish this." What followed was the most decisive hour in galactic history. The once mighty Devourer fleet, now leaderless and confused, fell before the determined assault of the Allied forces. Ship after ship was destroyed or forced to retreat. As the last Devourer vessel disappeared into the depths of space, a stunned silence fell over the comms. Then, slowly, cheers began to erupt. Humans and aliens alike celebrated their improbable victory. Sarah leaned back in her chair, exhaustion and relief washing over her. "We did it," she whispered. "We actually did it." The journey back to Earth was one of mixed emotions: joy at their victory, sorrow for those lost, and uncertainty about what would come next. As the surviving ships entered Earth's atmosphere, they were greeted by cheering crowds. People from every nation had gathered to welcome home their heroes. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy began to rebuild. The threat of the Devourers was gone, but so were many of the old power structures. In their place, a new galactic order began to form, one where humans stood as equals among the stars. At a ceremony in the rebuilt United Nations headquarters, representatives from every spacefaring race gathered. Admiral Sarah Chen, still wearing her uniform, stood at the podium. "Today, we honor those who gave their lives to save not just humanity, but all sentient life in our galaxy," she began. "They came from different worlds, different cultures, but they stood together in our darkest hour. She paused, looking out at the assembled aliens and humans. We were once called cowards, deemed unworthy to stand among the galactic community. But when the greatest threat in our history loomed, it was humanity who stepped up. Not alone, but as the spark that ignited a fire of unity and courage across the stars. As Sarah finished her speech, a new treaty was signed. The Galactic Confederation was born, with Earth as a founding member. Humanity, once dismissed as primitive and fearful, now stood as the guardians of the galaxy. The stars, once distant and forbidding, now beckoned with promise. And humanity, tested by fire and found worthy, took its first steps into a brighter future. They had been called cowards. They had proven themselves heroes. And the galaxy would never be the same again.